Hey, Winston Frederick Sterzel. You know, I know that I'm a little bit late with this one, but I've been busy, Winston Frederick Sterzel. You are actually telling lies so fast, Winston Frederick Sterzel, that I can hardly keep up. I don't know how anybody possibly could. This video today is based on a segment from the China show a week ago, Winston Frederick Sterzel. I felt I had to do this one. I haven't even had time to check out your lies from this week's The China Show yet, Winston Frederick Sterzel. I'll try to get to that shortly, Winston Frederick Sterzel, and make sure that I do a couple of videos on it. But anyway, let's dig into this one, Winston Frederick Sterzel.
Yeah, unfortunately, this one is devastating.
So now, this is something that you will exclusively see here on The China Show.
Yes.
Okay.
Red flag should be going up the flagpole and bells going off, ding, 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 Winston Frederick Sterzel. Anytime that you say, this is something you'll see exclusively here. I mean, how would you possibly get an exclusive scoop, Winston Frederick Sterzel, sitting in a green screen studio? How would that happen?
So they're putting, you know what they're doing there? They're blocking off parents.
In this one, Winston Frederick Sterzel, you regurgitate someone else's lies, Winston Frederick Sterzel. You know, I've seen several videos where those physical censorship barriers are used, Winston Frederick Sterzel. Anytime that I've seen those used, Winston Frederick Sterzel, they were used to control really loud protesters, you know, getting all rowdy and drawing attention to themselves, Winston Frederick Sterzel. But I've never seen a single one where the barrier is blue on the outside and then white on the inside. Here, let's take a look at one from one of your past shows, Winston Frederick Sterzel.
The physical censorship barriers come up.
Okay, I know that's nitpicking on my part, Winston Frederick Sterzel, so let's move on.
This is a vocational college.
Vocational college.
April 27th.
Okay, so this is
Liuzhou.
April 27th.
Liuzhou in Guangxi province, okay, in southern China. A student got sick at school.
Yep.
Okay. Died at the hospital pretty soon after. Parents were not notified or not able to see the body 4 days later.
Yeah.
So they went, so the body's not here. They died at the hospital.
Yes.
The parents go, okay, 4 days later, you still can't let me identify my dead child.
Yes.
They go to the school
To protest.
and they're like, let me see my child. We want to know what happened to my child.
We need answers.
Wait a minute, Winston Frederick Sterzel. Where did you get this story, Winston Frederick Sterzel? As usual, Winston Frederick Sterzel, that doesn't even make sense. Parents aren't allowed to see their child who's apparently been dead in the hospital for 4 days, Winston Frederick Sterzel. So what do? They go to the school to protest, Winston Frederick Sterzel. Seems to me it would make a lot more sense, Winston Frederick Sterzel, to go to the hospital.
Yeah.
They got blocked off. The cops show up in a blanket. They put up the physical censorship blanket
Yes.
around the parents
That are there trying to get answers.
so that you, as a viewer right now that you're watching this live or you're watching it in post, cannot see or hear or know about this story.
Are your viewers really that gullible, Winston Frederick Sterzel, to think that those barriers are being used so that they can't see or hear or know about this story? Come on, Winston Frederick Sterzel. I found your source for this story, Winston Frederick Sterzel. The story actually originates from an X account that's been shut down, Winston Frederick Sterzel. Before the X account could be shut down, it was picked up by Mirror Media out of Taiwan, Winston Frederick Sterzel. A publication with a long history of lawsuits for their reporting, Winston Frederick Sterzel. I don't know, Winston Frederick Sterzel, if you got it from the X account or from Mirror Media after they ran with it. But I have to give you credit, Winston Frederick Sterzel, in this one. At least you didn't run with their full story, Winston Frederick Sterzel. Because in that version, Winston Frederick Sterzel, they said the parents are naked behind the blue sheets, and their child is the victim of live organ harvesting carried out at the school, Winston Frederick Sterzel. Their story even went further, Winston Frederick Sterzel, that the IT teacher of the student is part of a executioner group, they said. And they said later, Winston Frederick Sterzel, the parents will only see the ashes of their child, which may not even necessarily be the ashes of their child, Winston Frederick Sterzel. So, I think that story, Winston Frederick Sterzel, it was just a little bit too much even for X. And you know what a cesspool X is, Winston Frederick Sterzel, just as much as I do.
What I did want to do, though, is every time we explore an area that we haven't shown you before, for example, Liuzhou, wanted to take you on the ground into the city to give you an idea.
Right, Winston Frederick Sterzel. That is quite an imagination that you got there, Winston Frederick Sterzel. You're going to pretend that you're on the ground in China, right, Winston Frederick Sterzel?
Because I always think it serves a purpose for you, because we know already. We know what China looks like. We've seen the entire country.
Yes.
Right. You've seen the entire country. I forgot, Winston Frederick Sterzel. You do make claims in every show, in every segment of every show also, Winston Frederick Sterzel, that you've been to, it doesn't matter where or what you're talking about, you've been there.
Liuzhou in Guangxi province, okay, in southern China.
Yep.
Both been there. But for you to understand that past this propaganda, what China actually looks like on the ground, I'm going to take you directly to this school. Let's go.
Yep.
More wild imagination, Winston Frederick Sterzel. You're going to take us to the school, right? Okay, I'm up for it. Let's go, Winston Frederick Sterzel.
Yeah. Okay. So you see the entrance there. It's got the diamond patterns. You can see the name of the school.
Correct.
All right.
So beyond this footage, we want to take you on the ground and do some street views.
Hey, wait a minute, Winston Frederick Sterzel. The end of that clip actually had a glitch as I played it out, Winston Frederick Sterzel. Let's take a little closer look, Winston Frederick Sterzel. Let me back it up just a little bit, Winston Frederick Sterzel. And then let's try, this little exercise. Winston Frederick Sterzel, if you don't mind, play along. I'm going to play it back in slow motion, Winston Frederick Sterzel. And then I want you to pan your head around about the same as the camera, Winston Frederick Sterzel. Try to follow the camera where it would be looking. And then, Winston Frederick Sterzel, ask yourself, in which direction are these people looking, Winston Frederick Sterzel? Is that the direction of the supposed commotion at the school, Winston Frederick Sterzel? You should have cut that part out, Winston Frederick Sterzel, but I know exactly why you didn't, Winston Frederick Sterzel. Shortcuts and facades, Winston Frederick Sterzel. Shortcuts and facades. Anyway, let's get back to your little pretend tour around the school, Winston Frederick Sterzel.
What happens when you're off of a main road in China and you can copy and paste this experience we're about to take you on in any Chinese city?
Absolutely every Chinese city.
Yeah.
Well, I did clip some parts out of your pretend tour, Winston Frederick Sterzel. Your intentions with this little tour are still very, very obvious, Winston Frederick Sterzel, with what I kept. And I kept about 3 minutes of your pretend tour, Winston Frederick Sterzel. And I'm just going to let it play through, Winston Frederick Sterzel. I won't interrupt it. But then afterwards, I'm going to come back and make a few comments, Winston Frederick Sterzel.
Copy and paste this experience we're about to take you on in any Chinese city.
Absolutely every Chinese city.
Yes.
So they're the dorms.
So new development.
Yeah.
Right.
This is the back.
The dorms and some of the classrooms. Right. But in reality, when you look around past that, if you look around that, let's actually go on the road. So this is literally one road off the main road.
Yes.
Right.
That's still the school dorms. That's the campus from behind.
Yes, it's another gate, right? Let's take you on a tour. So this is again China in real life versus nighttime drone footage propaganda, right?
Yeah.
The street view car had to go on these streets because this is a normal road in China and Liuzhou and around the main area.
That's an X road, yeah.
Right? Yeah. Main area.
Yeah.
So we want to take you around. It's kind of interesting, not just to say, oh, look at how crappy it is, but also to just give you an insight into what daily life looks like for the average city dweller in China, not a rural dweller.
You mean like that little kid just standing there all day?
Yeah, thinking about his future.
Uh-huh.
The average city dweller.
Yes.
This is not the countryside farmland.
No, it's not.
This is in almost the center of Liuzhou, a city with millions of people.
Correct.
In Guangxi in southern China. So it gives you a little insight onto what kind of... this corroborates everything we've seen in China. When you drive around China off of the main highway, this is what it looks like.
Yeah.
And this is why... So this is your average city-dwelling citizen that's not in the shiny high-rise.
Yeah.
This is how the majority of Chinese people live.
They do.
And it's much worse when you get out into the countryside. Remember, this is basically a city center. When you get out into the countryside in China, it gets dire.
Yeah, you can see the new
dire.
construction up there, right?
Yeah. And it's just a glimpse into, and I just wanted to do exactly where that story happens so you can have some more context here.
I wonder what happens here. It's like, hey, kids, get off my rubble.
You think they're...
Instead of get off my lawn.
Yeah, get off my rubble.
Yeah.
That's kind of sad.
Yeah.
There is a guy at some point standing in said rubble. Isn't it just so grim? It's Syria.
It does look like it, yeah. I mean, it looks like a war zone. It actually does.
Yeah.
But this is, this
wasn't cherry-picked.
Okay, I just wanted to slip in a quick plug here for Viewpoint Abroad channel. Take a look at Viewpoint Abroad. The guy who runs the channel, his name is John. He's an American. He's been in China for quite a while. If you want to see a real unbiased, non-cherry-picked look at some streets off the main street in China, he posted a video today I watched. And I've been watching this stuff for a while. He tells you about the good things and the bad things about being in China. He's an American. He's been here for many years. So take a look. Viewpoint Abroad.
This wasn't cherry-picked.
No,
this was the shot we just showed.
Because we were trying to research the university, so we used the Baidu Street View, which, is like Google Street View, basically. It's a knockoff of that, right? So we went down and we were like, what are we looking at here?
Yeah, from that main shot, you wouldn't know.
You wouldn't know. And you know what? The thing is, this is exactly how we remember China.
Yeah.
It's exactly this.
Yes.
And
this is the real China.
Anywhere you go in China, not any specific region or city, anywhere you go in China, once you
the main road.
Get off the main roads, once you start exploring, you'll start to see things like this.
And again, it's not even exploring, it's literally in the city.
Sure. It's next to this major university.
Yes.
So this is where the college kids, when they finish classes, if they want to go for like a romantic walk with their date, this is where they end up.
Quite literally. I mean, the gate of the university is right there. But it is. This is a fairly decent area for China.
Yeah.
It is. Like, this is not below par.
No.
You know what I mean? This is your average place.
You can see the university buildings there, actually, in the distance.
There's pretty vile, all the trash and stuff everywhere. Yeah. But, what do you expect?
I mean, just take some pride in where you live,
Suppose.
So this is the same city.
Yeah. Do you see what they do?
Bam. Yeah, exactly. This is what you're seeing on the internet. You see this. But we've just shown you what it looks like on the ground next to a major university in that city.
Yeah.
China is the land of shortcuts and facades. And this is a facade. All of these things you see are a facade because they hide the filth.
To start with, Winston Frederick Sterzel, you didn't tell your followers a couple of four things. Number one, that you have an agenda, Winston Frederick Sterzel. Number two, you don't have a clue what you're talking about, Winston Frederick Sterzel. You didn't tell your followers that. Number three, Winston Frederick Sterzel, the last update of Baidu Street Maps in that area where you were doing your pretend tour, Winston Frederick Sterzel, is like 7 or 8 years ago. You didn't tell your followers that. And last, and maybe the most importantly, Winston Frederick Sterzel, that entire area is a construction zone, and you know that, Winston Frederick Sterzel. I also went through the area using Baidu Maps, Winston Frederick Sterzel. I'd say that at least 50% of the buildings in that area, Winston Frederick Sterzel, have no windows. Do you know why? That's because they're scheduled for demolition, Winston Frederick Sterzel. You guys know that, I'm pretty sure.
So they're the dorms.
Look, Winston Frederick Sterzel, this is where you started your pretend tour, Winston Frederick Sterzel. So let's turn around just like you did. This is where you imagine yourself to be standing, Winston Frederick Sterzel. This is going to show you, Winston Frederick Sterzel, that you're stale and way past your sell before date, Winston Frederick Sterzel.
If you look around that,
here's a shot from about 6 months ago, Winston Frederick Sterzel. This was filmed in nearly the same spot, the same location, Winston Frederick Sterzel, that you were pretending to be. You're standing on a running track, Winston Frederick Sterzel. Did you know that? See this building here, Winston Frederick Sterzel? I mean, I think even you can pick it out in this shot and compare it to the one in your shot, right, Winston Frederick Sterzel? And this building here to the left, it's the same building over here in your shot, Winston Frederick Sterzel. Then as you continued down the street, Winston Frederick Sterzel, there was a clip. I noticed you skipped right past these buildings here, Winston Frederick Sterzel, which are just a little bit too obviously awaiting demolition. so you skipped over them.
You know
This
what?
wasn't cherry-picked.
You know, instead you jumped over to this other street, which is another dead end, Winston Frederick Sterzel, and you went to the end, where we can clearly see dorm number 4, Winston Frederick Sterzel.
This is not the countryside farmland.
No, it's not.
But it looks like they've broken ground there for dorm number 3, Winston Frederick Sterzel. So dorm number 3, which you can see from a more recent video, has also been built now, Winston Frederick Sterzel. And it would be somewhere right in front of where that Baidu car is, Winston Frederick Sterzel. If you look closely, Winston Frederick Sterzel, you can see dorm number 4 from your shot is still being outfitted. And it only has about 8 air conditioners installed, Winston Frederick Sterzel. Notice the building to the left, Winston Frederick Sterzel? Do you think maybe they're just waiting for windows to be installed, Winston Frederick Sterzel? Now, we're going to turn around and go back the other way, Winston Frederick Sterzel.
It's Syria.
It does look like it, yeah. I mean, it looks like a war zone. It actually does.
Yeah.
Do you really think there's people living in these buildings here, Winston Frederick Sterzel? You really believe that? Just look at the stupid smirks on your faces as you deceive your followers, Winston Frederick Sterzel. I could do this all day, Winston Frederick Sterzel, but I'm just going to include one more clip, Winston Frederick Sterzel, taken about 2 months ago, Winston Frederick Sterzel. The entire area where you pretended yourself to be, Winston Frederick Sterzel, appears to be gone, Winston Frederick Sterzel. It's not a very clear shot, I admit that, but there even appears to be like a major road maybe, or could be a highway running right through that area, Winston Frederick Sterzel. It's the area you were pretending to be in, Winston Frederick Sterzel. You are way more beholden to your agenda than you ever were to the Chinese people or any moral imperative, Winston Frederick Sterzel. I guess I have to chalk this one up to another deception, Winston Frederick Sterzel. Not so much of a lie again, Winston Frederick Sterzel, because you really don't have a clue, Winston Frederick Sterzel, do you? Shortcuts and facades, Winston Frederick Sterzel. Shortcuts and facades.